I've been in Walnut Creek in this office for about 30 years actually, and I'm solo practice, and that means I have no partners, and so I've sort of used that somewhat unique relationship nowadays to get very close to the patients and feel like I know them quite well, and that I have a direct responsibility for what happens to them. And one of the things that it also has allowed me to do as a solo practitioner is to spend time talking in areas that I think need more attention. On the specific question of the H1N1 right now, this has been a hot topic for the last year, and the H1N1 was advertised as a very dangerous virus that was going to, probably ravage the country and cause a great deal of illness, and it frankly didn't live up to those expectations. So, in fairness, the number of children that die from influenza in an average year isn't very high. It's a very small number, but it was 3 times higher this year because of the H1N1. So it isn't a totally benign illness, and it has been worse for children, including older children and young adults as well, than an average flu might be. But the CDC is predicting it's going to come back, and they're also predicting that, or not predicting, but they're also reminding us that influenza has a tendency to mutate as it circulates. And when it comes back, it may come back in a much more virulent form than it first hit. And so when we see it again, and they're pretty sure we will, it could be, I won't say it will be, it could be worse than it was the first time around. So they're still recommending with no hesitation at all the H1N1 vaccine. I understand that you're concerned about that.
Yes, I am.
Preschool, and I think you well should be, because things happen in preschool if children get sick. In other words, it's a communal place, and so when one child gets sick, it affects a group. And therefore, it's not always simply about the child who gets sick, it's about everyone else that's around them, and so this is an issue that you should be very concerned about. Vaccinations, quite frankly, are the most successful thing that medicine has ever done, bar nothing. There's nothing we've ever done in the history of medicine that adds up to what success we've had with vaccinations. And for as much as people sort of hear that antibiotics become weak over time, no vaccine has shown any weakness over time, because what vaccines do is they enlist the human immune system, which has evolved over millennia, to fight viruses and bacteria. And we just basically, using vaccines, speak to the immune system and say, these are the viruses we're worried about, go look for these viruses and kill them if you see them. Now, if you're using a natural body technique to fight infections, and we just found a clever way to speak to these vaccines, or to these to the immune system using the vaccines. But the fact is that what we've also seen in this country is a complete disappearance of most of the diseases that I grew up on in terms of my training. We spent a great deal of time back in the 70s and the 80s worrying about meningitis, for instance, which is a brain infection, and very routinely left children brain damaged and deaf and killed many of them. We never see it at all anymore. It's just a disappeared disease. It has vanished from the scene, and because we don't even think about it much anymore, because we never see it, we don't do nearly the numbers of lab tests, spinal taps, blood tests. We don't hospitalize kids nearly as much. Kids are just not very sick anymore. In fact, pediatrics is in danger of becoming a psychiatric field, as we are spending far more time now on behavioral questions and developmental issues and things like that, because we have no sick children to take care of. With 2 vaccines that we've introduced over the last 10 years, we have seen anywhere from 20 to 40% drop in ear infections, a 20 to 40% drop in antibiotic use. A goal that we've been seeking for years is to try to use fewer antibiotics. The only way that that's been accomplished is with these vaccines. And it's very essential that people continue to vaccinate their kids, as much as they think that it's just an unnecessary abuse of children. And I can understand that. I certainly hate it when we have to acknowledge I've got to give you a few more shots today, But when you consider how healthy kids are nowadays and how unprecedented that is in the history of the world, I think that you have to look at the cost-benefit analysis and conclude that this is a good idea.